Fight sensitivity pain fast with Sensodyne Rapid Action for clinically proven relief in 60 seconds.
The fans are for real. Like, they're feeling you, they'll show you they're feeling you.
I'm just grateful. So I'm just like taking every opportunity as it comes.
Through her fashion, we might end up falling in love with her music.
Being African is more of like, it's a home, it's a place, it's a feeling, you know?
My job, my friend, as you wait for the call, my friend, it just perturbing how sure you are that the call is going to be picked. My job, the recipient is probably held up. In our days, we...
To get Baba Otis Maajabu by Flacco, dial star 811 star 936 hash. Skiza Nan Nation.
Je, maumivu ya kichwa na kukosesha amani? Kaluma Strong hutuliza maumivu ya kichwa, maumivu ya mwili na hata huondoa joto jingi mwilini. Kaluma Strong ina aspirin kama kiungo. Maumivu yakizidi, muone daktari.
Rashes again? Kiss Kids diapers. Kiss Kids, no rashes. Kiss Kids, no rashes. Bye-bye rashes. Buy diapers. Choose Kiss Kids.
In the vast green Kiambu County, surrounded by luscious coffee plantations, flowing natural rivers, and alluring dams, sits the beautiful Zaria village, with every amenity desired for a home carefully considered. The village comprises of a perimeter wall, a kindergarten, a commercial center, and a clubhouse. There are 4 approved architectural house concepts, styled to accommodate your ideal dream home. Indulge your senses and relive your childhood desires, where you can be free, be bold, and be at home. Call us on 0729 121212, where you should dream it, own it, live it.
This is NTV.
Good evening, welcome to NTV Tonight, and we start with the global view of the COVID-19 situation. And internationally, the infections have gone past 20 million and at least fatalities of 735,000 and recoveries of 12.9 million people around the world. In Africa, there are at least 1 million people who have been infected, with 23,360 fatalities. In the United States, we have 5.2 million infections that have been confirmed so far, with 165,000 deaths, closer to what Fauci had actually said months ago, that it could get to 200,000, and recoveries there of 2.6 million people. We'll be getting to the Kenyan situation, and these are the stories tonight. Tonight, Afya House, a theater of graft which operate on corrupt deals, doctor documents, treat you to theft, and bury Kenyans' heads in their blood.
Billions more have been spent on building bridges where there are no rivers.
Blood from the ministry has been found in Mogadishu.
Mafia House continues shortly. Plus, scandal after scandal, corruption on corruption, the government's integrity is on trial.
The government has collapsed.
The president yet again setting a life-threatening precedent. Also tonight, a roadblock still stands on the Revenue Avenue, but hope remains.
Over 60% of us are already in support of that deal.
If the first route doesn't work, then we'll go to a vote.
And where death and flamboyance are twins by association.
The moment you see these rolled chapatis in funerals, you know saliva starts rolling out of your mouth.
Cost of burying the dead in this region roughly is about 4 million.
Many are left broke and broken. COVID-19 has dug a grave for livelihoods. Tonight's special feature, RIP Death Industry.
NTV Tonight with Mark Masai.
Thank you for joining us. I'm not alone. Flora Atieno is a sign language interpreter backed by our team from the newsroom and our technical crew in the gallery. And there's no two ways about it. Weed out corruption at Afya House or step aside. A stern warning from NARC Kenya leader Martha Karua, who blames Health Cabinet Secretary Mutahi Kagwe for failing to take action on the Mafia House cartels that continue to thrive through COVID-19 irregular tenders. But in a quick rejoinder, the Health CS says the ongoing investigations are of a complex nature, and it's just a matter of time before the real culprits behind major scandals at Afya House are prosecuted. NTV's Seth Olale starts us off.
More pressure is mounting on Health Cabinet Secretary Mutahi Kagwe to deal with the cartels at Afya House. Kenya leader Martha Karua says that the ongoing pandemic has opened floodgates for abuse of public funds, unreasonable flouting of procurement laws, and abuse of supplementary budgets for purposes that are not consistent with public interest.
We demand that the government investigates, arrests, and successfully prosecutes thieves at Afya House and across government who have stolen or made it possible to steal and or abuse COVID-19 response monies and other resources. Not a single person has ever been prosecuted for the Mafia House scandal of 2016, despite government promising to do so.
Not mincing words, she says President Uhuru Kenyatta has failed to stop cartels that have turned Afya to Mafia House, with billions of taxpayers' money said to have been stolen over the years.
We demand accountability. The President Kenyatta must address the endemic corruption in the health sector, including the repeated adverse mention of people close to him.
Afya House boss Mutahi Kagwe says investigations are ongoing, describing them as complex.
You have no idea how bad it is. You are just mentioning KEMSA here. And you are mentioning something, Ministry of Health, in passing. My friend, blood from the ministry has been found in Mogadishu. Blood. And here you are taking it lightly, talking about what you have done in 5 months. It's not an overnight activity. We are determined to fight, and we will. So if you know any of those cartels, please tell them that their days are numbered.
The CS really must take responsibility, act to redress or take full responsibility for the wrong things that are happening. And I do think it is not his duty to explain exorbitant costs of PPEs. That should never be his business. Let him list down what has been received and how it has been allocated, both PPEs and money, and let him act. He also admitted there were misfits in Afya House or Mafia House. He is the boss of Afya House now. He has to choose whether to be the boss of Mafia House or Afya House.
The Health CS says those responsible for the looting at Afya House will be fully held responsible upon completion of investigations.
Be a bit more patient during the fight against the same cartels. Cartels are not beaten overnight. they fight back.
Weeding out cartels at Afya House has so far seemed like a wild goose chase, with previous attempts by the health CS to effect the transfer of long-serving senior officials to other state departments failing. As the CS Health tries to clean up house, questions are being raised on how affairs are being run, much as they try to find where the hemorrhaging of the COVID-19 fund is. There are seeming leaks in spending that could be plugged. Seth Olale, NTV, Nairobi.
We've just had a taste of what she has to say on the status quo. Not one to mince her words. Former Justice Minister Martha Karua has, as the first order of business on Monday morning, gave a scathing review of President Uhuru Kenyatta's leadership in the face of the COVID-19 pandemic. Karua is accusing the president of being more preoccupied with his personal interests than the welfare of Kenyans he swore to protect. Here's a blow-by-blow account by Olive Burrows.
We can no longer sit back and remain silent. No, this is not one of those old-timer quotes. It's one by heavyweight boxing champion Anthony Joshua, made when following the killing of George Floyd. To quote an oldie but a goodie, the center could not hold. And on Monday, another heavyweight in Kenya's political scene decided enough is enough. She could no longer sit back and remain silent, as again, to quote Yeats, things fall apart. And like Joshua, when she gets in the ring, she gives as good as she gets. Don't let her smile fool you.
The government has collapsed. The only thing that seems to be functioning in this government is misprocurement. Not procurement, misprocurement, taxation, they never fail in that one, and political patronage.
As a fighter, Karua is no Muhammad Ali who discombobulated his opponents with his fancy footwork. She's never been one to pussyfoot when landing a direct blow will get the job done just as well, if not better. She, who once walked out on a strong man, has never been one to shy away from staring down a Goliath. In this case, President Uhuru Kenyatta. Her message, sober up and pull up your big boy pants.
Kenyans have patience, but our patience is worn thin.
President Kenyatta, she said, had left Kenyans to the wolves while he went about securing his personal interests at their expense.
President Kenyatta and his government have ignored these pressing needs, preferring their private and political priorities. Billions of shillings are being spent on projects with questionable public utility value. Billions more have been spent on building bridges where there are no rivers.
As Kenyans stare down the barrel of the COVID-19 pandemic, Karua said President Kenyatta's administration had proven itself incompetent.
There is obvious lack of leadership in the education sector.
Her advice?
President Kenyatta must address the endemic corruption in the health sector, including the repeated adverse mention of people close to him. The concentration of decision-making at the center is not only unconstitutional, but it's also emerging as an enabler of corruption, nepotism, and patronage.
Her parting shot, let those who have ears hear. Olive Burrows, NTV.
To the COVID-19 situation in the country now, the Ministry of Health continues to stress the need, of a nutritional diet in the fight against COVID-19. Kenya has recorded in the latest update 492 new infections out of a sample size of 4,063. This brings the total national count to 26,928. 331 are male, while 161 are female. 534 people have recovered, bringing the total number of recoveries to 13,435. 3 people have succumbed to the virus, and Nairobi has the highest count of new infections at 357, followed by Garissa at 57. Kiambu has recorded 37 new patients, Kajiado 14, and Machakos 13. Helen Aura now looks at the guidance on return to work for those who have recovered from COVID-19, as well as the dietary requirements.
The Ministry of Health continues to stress that the fight against COVID-19 is partly to be won on the diet front.
Get foods from all the groups, especially proteins are very important, both animal-based and plant-based protein.
The country has lost only 1 minor, according to the ministry's publicized reports. Afya House says that the young ones are weathering the storm well.
Of course, infants mainly get exposed because their parents, especially mothers, during breastfeeding. So far, we have only lost 1 infant, a 6-year-old, who had a problem with a bone marrow, a condition called aplastic anemia. So they get the disease, but they weather the storm very, very well. But that notwithstanding, of course, we still espouse breastfeeding as the best food for the baby. So even if the mother is positive, the mother must breastfeed.
With corporates urging many to work from home, those many who still need to physically report to their workplaces, concerns have been raised over the cases of those who are infected and recovered and have resumed duty.
10 days of a positive COVID-19 test and your symptoms are improving, you don't have a fever, you don't have to take medicine to bring your temperature down, then you are good to go back to work. But ensure again that you maintain the same infection prevention control measures.
Health CS Mutahi Kagwe and his team were in Kericho County, which so far has 308 isolation beds, even as testing capacity remains a concern.
Sensitization and training of our health care workers, which is at 95%. Health education to members of the public. Screening at the entry points to all our health facilities. Screening of travelers passing through Kericho, contact tracing and follow-up, quarantine of suspects at KMTC Kapkatet, testing of suspected cases, isolation of confirmed cases, testing of healthcare workers, protection of frontline healthcare workers, recruitment of additional 126 healthcare workers beside the 176 universal healthcare recruited staff.
I knew they would test, but I didn't know just how efficient and effective this institution is. And yes, they can test as much as you had said, 8,000, but they have to have the reagents. Now, on the issue of the reagents, it is a global concern. It's a global challenge. It is not that the Ministry of Health is not fighting to get these reagents. We are fighting as much as we can. Don't forget we used to test 100, 200, 300 people per day. Now we are on to 4,000, 7,000, 8,000 even. It is according to the availability of the reagents.
The government says that at least 15% of the COVID-19 related deaths in the country are young people aged between 20 and 40 years.
As the youth of the country, to just wear this, make it as fashionable as you want to, wash your hands, and then let's get along in terms of trying to recover as a country from this pandemic.
Helen Aura, NTV.
The protocols have been laid out time and again. The reasons have been laid bare. In Mutahi Kagwe's words, you will die, utakufa, usijifanye fellow. Well, fellow Kenyans, in the last 24 hours, we have witnessed leaders leading the wrong way. We have witnessed no less than the head of state, President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, addressing a crowd in some of Nairobi's informal settlements. He was commissioning the construction of 3 new Level 3 hospitals in the capital. The crowds he addressed were Kenyans, but foreigners to social distancing at the time. He spoke to them, promising them better health facilities, while ironically exposing them to COVID-19, or if we may go back to the health minister's words, potentially exposing them to death. In addition, fellow Kenyans, the apple does not fall far from the tree. The very cabinet secretary, after giving his daily COVID-19 briefing, followed in his boss's footsteps and addressed a crowd in Kericho. He told them that coronavirus is real, even as social distancing among his audience was not a reality. Fellow Kenyans, that is the briefing for today. The Senate is still at a stalemate in regards to the controversial county revenue allocation new formula. Tomorrow, senators will have to square it out on the floor of the House using debate and voting process and to decide on how the 316.5 billion shillings will be shared to the 47 county governments. Vincent Odor reports.
In Isiolo County, if you're just joining us.
Despite the Senate adjourning its sittings last week to create room for dialogue and consensus over the new county revenue allocation formula, possibilities of negotiation have hit a snag. The faction led by Elgeyo Marakwet Senator Kipchumba Murkomen that supports counties that are losing revenue on the new formula has refused to engage in mediation with the other faction led by Senate Majority Whip Irungu Kangata that supports the government-backed formula. Instead, the Murkomen faction has submitted its proposed amendments to the office of the Clerk of the Senate. The amendments forwarded by Meru Senator Mithika Linturi seeks to have 270 billion shillings shared equally amongst the 47 counties, and then the remaining balance from the 316.5 billion shillings be shared to the counties based on parameters like the population, poverty level, status of sectors like health, agriculture, urban index, land area, and fiscal effort, among other parameters.
Over 60% of us are already in support of that deal. And I believe and I encourage the majority and minority leadership to take over Senator Linturi's proposal that is fair, that reduces the loss that the counties were achieving to a very minimum negligible figure, and that will allow the majority, the big counties, to start gaining immediately.
Efforts to establish a 10-member mediation committee flopped after the Murkomen faction refused to submit the names of the members.
Tomorrow we'll debate, and I'm sure by afternoon we'll have reached a consensus. That is plan A. But if it comes down to the wire again, even last week we had the numbers. Yeah, we had gotten another extra 5 senators. But we said, why lose a debate win a debate and lose the country? If the first route doesn't work, then we'll go to a vote.
For a while now, governors have complained that the ongoing stalemate is derailing delivery of essential services to the residents of the counties. Vincent Odur, NTV.
Well, I hope the promise is more of sense and less of con in terms of reaching a consensus tomorrow. We'll be following that story for you, and we take a break here on NTV Tonight. Stay with me.
John suffers from indigestion. His twin James suffers from heartburn. Sometimes it's the other way around or both. That's why they use Gaviscon Double Action. It soothes within 3 minutes and lasts up to 4 hours. For double relief from heartburn and indigestion, Gaviscon Double Action. If symptoms persist, seek medical advice.
Do your gums hurt? Yeah. Does your toothpaste contain sage, eucalyptus, myrrh, chamomile? All that in one toothpaste? Yes, try Colgate Herbal. Colgate Herbal contains nature's best herbs and Colgate's fluoride technology to give you strong teeth and healthy gums. Ah, Colgate Herbal. Let's go. Colgate Herbal for strong teeth and healthy gums naturally.
Sona moja imetengenezwa kwa njia spesheli ili kupambana na maumivu kwa haraka. Sona moja ina aspirin kama kiungo. Sona moja, kitulizo kamili. Maumivu yakizidi, pata ushauri wa daktari.
She is not
not really well. Anna, get back Hillary to her family at once.
Airing dirty laundry in public, Miranda? Then I will give you the scandal of the century.
My husband and his chief of staff are having an affair. I will see you both in court.
Samantha's been arrested because of the arson case against her.
Get those sisters fight each other more and make sure Samantha ends up abhorring Anna.
How dare you involve my family in your insanity? You deserve worse than rotting in prison.
You can't prove what you're saying. I hope your grandmother dies too.
You deserve worse from my grandma.
A money rich, the place of peace, is taking shape. The Solomonic Gate is complete. The stone perimeter wall is complete. And the title deeds for every plot. Call us today on 0790 300 300.
Welcome back. We continue from Bungoma, where human rights activist based there was released on a free bond by Kibra Court after he was accused of stealing confidential documents belonging to get this, the county government of Bungoma. This is actually a precedent because the activist claims the situation at hand is part of the intimidation by Governor Wycliffe Wangamati, whose impeachment the man has been pursuing. Zacchaeus Mosame has the details.
Kundu Nyukuri Barasa was a man under siege after detectives pounced on him on Friday in Bungoma before he was escorted to Molo and later to Nairobi. Nyukuri was arraigned for allegedly stealing documents belonging to county government of Bungoma. The DCI, through a sworn affidavit, stated that between July 30th and August 3rd, Nyukuri, alongside others not before the court, stole an original file for the Assembly Committee on Public Administration and ICT belonging to the county government of Bungoma. The prosecution's request for the defendant to be detained for 15 more days to allow for investigations was quashed.
The request is granted. The respondent is granted exemption from curfew for tonight to enable him to travel to Bungoma.
Nyukuri's lawyer, Brian Khaemba, accused the DCI of falsely accusing his client, claiming that his woes are as a result of a petition he presented at the Bungoma County Assembly with intentions of impeaching Bungoma Governor Wycliffe Wangamati. The court dismissed the application and released the accused on free bond. Nyukuri was granted an order exempting him the 9 p.m. to 4 a.m. curfew to allow him to travel to Bungoma.
And the court has even asked how comes that he was arrested when no investigations have been conducted. They engaged the reverse gear. They arrested him so that they can go back and conduct the investigation. So to an ordinary person, that is a conclusion that's not far-fetched. You can easily jump that conclusion.
The court heard that the investigating officer had no evidence against the accused. The activist is now at liberty to continue with his mission of moving a motion to impeach Governor Wangamati over corruption allegations. Zacchaeus Masame, NTV.
We've been following the issues between Kajiado and Kiambu counties as there has been a fight over a few weeks, and it's mostly over resources. We'll be getting the developments there because there have been reports of stolen livestock as well as injuries based on those who have been getting caught up in retaliatory attacks. And with every writing of political interruption or interference in this particular issue, the authorities, that is the police commander there, Ali Nuno, says he is following this particular issue. But before we get to that, because we need to show people there that security is being restored at all costs, let's look at a different survey that came out today. More than half of Kenyans cannot access basic needs, services and rights. Out of that population, 36% of Kenyans earn less than 3,252 shillings per month. Charity Mwangi now delves into the latest statistics on poverty that has been exacerbated by the COVID-19 pandemic from a report by the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics.
The pervasive nature of the COVID-19 pandemic has become manifest in urban areas as well as in rural areas. Times are hard, and for many, life has changed for the worse. Job losses have been reported sweeping across from corporates to small and medium enterprises. No one appears to be safe, as the pandemic continues to take casualties both literally and figuratively. And so it does not come as a shock that the poor are getting poorer and vulnerability is spreading. According to a report published by the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, 1 in every 3 Kenyans is monetary poor, meaning that they struggle to access basic goods and services. This translates to 36% of the population of 15.9 million people. The monetary poverty line is 3,252 shillings per month for an adult living in the rural areas and 5,995 shillings per month for an adult living in the urban areas. 53% of the population cannot access the 3 basic needs, services or rights. This translates to 23.4 million people who are unable to enjoy the basic needs of food, clothing and shelter or services such as sanitation, education, health or protection. The rights to this group may be even tougher to access, not just because of the obvious reason of their diminished influence in society, but also because of lack of awareness on their fundamental rights as Kenyans. The rural population is affected to a greater extent by this when compared to their urban counterparts. More than a quarter of the population that is monetary and multidimensionally poor resides in Turkana, Kakamega, Kilifi, Mandera and Kitui counties. Isiolo, Lamu and Nyeri counties combined host only 0.9% of the most vulnerable. Nearly half of the youth aged between 18 and 34 years are multidimensionally poor, meaning that as a result of the emasculated state of their finances, they face multiple disadvantages in life. This translates to 6.4 million people. 29%, or 3.8 million youth, are monetary poor. Charity Mwangi, NTV.
From those who have nothing or close to nothing to those who are losing their property, and especially in Murang'a, with a rising pattern in theft. And the county is experiencing an increase in night burglaries, leaving the residents a worried lot. According to the residents, so far in August, over 10 cases of car break-ins have been reported. And just on this point, if we pause, you might think this is not quite a big deal, but wait till you see the actual footage. The gang involved is said to be so brazen in their attacks, with calls for the police to move swiftly before things get out of hand. Martin Mora reports.
Dead in the night during curfew at Vidhuramji Estate. While residents try to rest, there are individuals at work. This gang of 3 strikes, stealing from a parked lorry and 2 personal vehicles. From 2 a.m. to 4 a.m., they conduct their business uninterrupted and, from the look of things, not in a hurry. One even finds a jacket and tries it on, and even takes a break to refresh himself with a sip of water from one of the vehicles. They only run away after a matatu driver who lives in one of the blocks interrupts them as he opens the gate to leave for work. According to the residents, this is not an isolated incident.
They took the front parts and the dashboard. They took the speedometer and other equipments, and also the stereo systems and the batteries. So in my estimation, the amount of goods they took from the cars was around figures of getting to 100,000 Kenya shillings.
Same script, different location. A gang is seen breaking the small rear window and opening the lock from the inside. After getting in, they managed to open the bonnet and disconnect the battery to disable the alarm and take their sweet time ransacking the vehicle as the owners are asleep.
They had a lot of time to spare and they were not in a hurry to steal what they can steal. They had planned actually to take time, and they had done probably their research on the area and the cars that they were targeting.
Juliet Omohu says a car came and parked near hers. 3 men were captured by CCTV cameras from a nearby bank, alighting and vandalizing her car in broad daylight. They only managed to carry the spare wheel after they were unable to open the door before zooming off.
That car is really terrorizing people, and seeing that they could go to a break-in during the daytime, it shows there's a lapse in the security system. Let us all be on the lookout and be our brother's keeper.
Many residents feel helpless as this is now becoming common in Murang'a town.
Most of my friends ndio actually wamekuwa victims. People from the garage, those who deal with second hand parts, waweze kushikania pamoja na polisi na members of the public and everyone to make sure this thing comes to an end. Sababu kuna watu hawalali usiku.
Mukoyu, Mombi, Vidhuramji and Kiharo estates are said to be the hotspots for car break-ins.
Although tunashuku kuna watu wako huku wanapelekana na hawa watu, wanawaonyesha, wanawaambia hii boma security yake iko hivi, mnasaidia mfanye hivi, so tuko na wasiwasi sana. Sasa mimi vile nataka hata serikali iwe macho. Kwa sababu haiti kwa boma moja, unasikia kama boma kama 10 siku moja wamekuja wameiba, sinaenda furujo inatoroka.
Police Commander Josephat Kinywa says they had managed to eradicate the gang last year, putting them on notice once again. No suspect has been arrested yet, but police are following up crucial leads to arrest those responsible. Most of the break-ins are reported during curfew hours, leaving residents wondering how the thieves are able to get away despite heavy police presence to enforce the curfew. Martin Mora, NTV, Murang'a County.
Tabia mbaya, shenzi kabisa. And after that report, we'll be getting into our special feature in a few minutes, RIP Death Industry by Oko Kusa. We promised it all week. We'll be bringing it now in a couple of minutes. Stay with us.
Beat sensitivity pain fast with Sensodyne Rapid Action for clinically proven relief in 60 seconds.
Breaking news from Molfix. Let's see what they're developing right now.
Molfix pants with anatomic fit technology. New Molfix pants, an invention from babies for babies.
You should also try Molfix.
Pata smartphone mpya kuanzia 20 bob daily pekee ukilipa mdogo mdogo. Weka down payment ya 1000. Lipa kuanzia 20 bob daily kwa miezi 9. Piga star 544 hash kuona kama unafaulu kupata 4G Neon Ray Pro. Si hapo Safaricom ni yako kabisa.
From far with you. I even gifted you a magnificent house. Rosa, it's the thought that counts. Please help me.
When it comes to fever, you need to be both. Panadol Baby and Infant starts to work on fever in 15 minutes and is gentle on the tummy. Panadol Baby and Infant, tough on fever, gentle on your child.
Welcome back. Pompous processions, fanfare, grandeur, and feasting are common scenes witnessed during funeral ceremonies in Western Kenya region. But all this splendor comes at a price, huge costs that are largely borne by the bereaved. In this special report, Oko Kusa takes an in-depth look at how the COVID-19 pandemic has killed what was a thriving sector, which on the flip side has impoverished thousands, I should say, of families in the region. Here is RIP Death Industry.
It bears the look, sounds, and feel of a state funeral. The state of this funeral would have you make that assumption, but it is important to state, if you thought as much, You are wrong, but you will be forgiven without much hassle. And again, if you mistake this for a state banquet, copious amounts of pardon could be served to you. In the western and Nyanza parts of Kenya, death and glamour walk side by side in an interesting juxtaposition of the twins by association. Red carpets, magnificent caskets, meticulously decorated dome tents replete with colorful dressed chairs, powerful public address systems, drone cameras, customized branded t-shirts, glossy funeral programs, portable toilets, fancy multi-course meals, and it will be an injustice not to mention high-class hospitality. These are the sights and sounds of flamboyance. Luos call it Nyadi. And this cocktail of show and concomitant might is a congruous manifestation of what has been christened the death industry.
They arrange it in a cycle, in a plate. The moment you see these rolled chapatis in funerals, you know saliva starts rolling out of your mouth.
The cost of burying the dead in this region, particularly amongst the Luo community, burying one dead roughly is about 4 million. And that figure, if you tabulate it annually, it runs into billions.
Kuna watu wanahaya even tent ya 1500. Mimi nishalipwa kuhaya dome tent. Nishapewa contract nipeane hiyo tent. Unahaya hiyo tent lori na nini na nini na nini. Ukiangalia 700,000 imeenda. Hii 700,000 inaweza fanya nini? A number of things.
Within the death industry, there are a number of players who include catering service providers, hired or professional mourners, the church, bouncers who ordinarily double up as pall-bearers, videographers and photographers, hearse service providers, and coffin makers.
Those subsectors in the death industry have been thriving on the miseries of the bereaved.
Final send-offs are important and highly guarded and regarded among the Luo and Luya communities, and the different activities and rituals that make up the season between the final breath and the laying of the final wreath are sacrosanct. Ordinarily, when someone passes away, a series of events follow. First, a close relative with priority given to a woman alerts the neighbors of the death through screams and wails. If the deceased is a married man, his wife does it. If an unmarried person, their mother is meant to alert the people. When a married woman passes on, a husband is the notifier. If she dies in town, the husband is tasked to travel up country to make the wailed announcement, what is loosely referred to in the Luo as Teroiwak. Once the announcement is made, mourners begin to stream in, and the feeding begins. A funeral committee to plan the final journey is set up, comprising the deceased family members, relatives, and friends. The committee draws a funeral budget under the family's guidance. A fundraiser is arranged and the bereaved family is tasked with various responsibilities, such as constructing a house for the deceased in case he didn't have any at home, provide a certain number of animals for slaughter, in addition to their contribution towards the budget.
Sasa being that alikuwa bwana ama mume, marafiki zake ama ndugu zake wanaona sahi wacha tumtengenezee nyumba, si eti wanatengenezea kwa sababu marafiki wake ama colleagues wake watakuja.
These expectations are considered compulsory, despite being not as comfortable at a time where comfort in huge doses is direly desired.
The death industry has impoverished so many bereaved
people in this region.
Wengine unaweza kupata kwa boma watoto wameachiliwa, baba ameaga na iko hata ng'ombe moja. Sasa hiyo ng'ombe itabidi muuze, alafu watu wanabaki bila kitu.
Na hii ng'ombe utapata ako na mtoto afaa ingia ajoin hata shule. Hiyo ng'ombe ikiuzwa inasafanya mtoto ajoin hata kama ni day school. Sasa kitambo watu walikuwa nafanya wenye wamepata msiba wanakuwa maskini zaidi.
These are some of the circumstances that are creating a conviction contrary to culture, the conviction that the now termed corona burials are working for the greater good as they are shielding and saving many families, communities, and the region at large.
If such protocols burying the dead at low cost can continue even post-COVID, this will help to cushion the impoverishment of the bereaved in this region.
Unapata mtu anakufa, only thing family wanatafuta, mkishapata burial permit, ni coffin na transport. Mkifika nyumbani, mnazika. Hakuna kukula hapo, hakuna kukaa hapo. So ile ng'ombe yenye wangechinja, utauza tu, peleke na mtoto shule.
Once somebody is dead, the next thing one must think of is burial. Kuchimba kaburi na kuweka maiti ndani ya kaburi na kurudisha mchanga. That is burial. I don't need food for that.
Hata gharama sahihi ya kusanya pesa, kuita watu kwa harambee imepungua. Mambo ya WhatsApp group, ati mtu anakuambia amekuadi kwa group ingine amepata shida, sahihi hakuna. Sasa ningependa kushauri watu wetu ili tukae katika maisha ambayo tuko nayo sasa, tusibadilishe hii maisha.
And these sentiments are increasingly being echoed and appreciated despite the friction of going against the grain. Ken Ogada's family has already tasted the new norm, which they say did not leave a bad taste in their mouths, despite being against what they have always known. In July, the Ogadas buried two of their mothers in the span of 1 week. Both burials were conducted in accordance with the government protocols.
Gharama ilikuwa kidogo, ni mortuary bill, sanduku na hasi ya kubeba maiti, na chakula kidogo tu wale marafiki walitoka mbali wenye walipata nafasi ya kuja.
This was in clear-cut contrast to last year when the family was laying another relative to rest.
Tulipoteza mamangu mkubwa na tulitumia pesa mingi sana, almost $500,000 kutayarisha mazishi yake. Baadaye hata kuna kitu sisi tulibaki nayo kama wenye walifiwa.
There are sighs of relief born of the new norm, but there are cries of grief as some beneficiaries of the death industry are in mourning.
Wengi wetu tulikuwa tunafanya matanga pia. Hizo ni kazi ambayo tulikuwa tunafanya. Sasa hii matanga mtu akikufa anazikwa baada ya 2 days amezikwa. Na kwa matanga watu wengi hawatakikani. So kukula pia haiko.
COVID-19 struck and unceremoniously laid some livelihoods into caskets, and the containment measures served as pallbearers for those whose lives have been supported by the death industry. In this catering business, for instance, Oduor is among more than 60 individuals who were put out of employment as a result of the pandemic.
Hakuna vile tunaweza kula, hakuna vile tunasaidia kwa kulipa nyumba. Kwa mfano kama mimi pia nilipa nyumba mwisho 18th March, hadi leo sijalipa nyumba. Sasa tuko naomba serikali bila nasaidia wengine, si pia tukue consider kama wengine.
Inside these stores, canvas tents, plastic chairs, and dining tables worth millions of shillings sit, gathering dust and rusting away in an atmosphere reeking of lifelessness, just like the situations that offered them a platform to provide commercial value.
Tents tuko nayo karibu 100, ambao kutengeneza tent moja inagharimia shilingi 100,000 tent moja, na ziko zaidi ya zinatoshea 100. Viti ukinunua kiti moja ile ya quality mzuri moja ni 700 bob, na tuko na viti 3,000 pia zimelala chini. So ukipiga moja ni hasara kubwa yenye tunaenda.
While the businesses' hands appear tied, the people in whom the culture has been instilled will not let the ropes of their wrists stop them. Many are insistent on doing things in the pre-pandemic way, more so where the deceased was a public figure. The friction between Luo culture and COVID-19 containment has played out in the past weeks, where various popular musicians from the region have passed away. The mourners who decided to honor and send off their beloved artist in the way they know best were not taking no for an answer. On Thursday, June 11th, popular Ohangla musician Bernard Onyango, commonly known as Abenija Chiga, passed away and was buried at night in Kisumu County. The artist's final send-off was a theater of drama. The Ohangla musician's fans sealed off a grave dug at the home to bury him, saying it was unthinkable to bury him in such a haste, in scenes where culture overruled containment of the pandemic.
Let us kunyo, leave us to kunyo, and tomorrow tutazika kesho.
Hatutakubali mwenzetu azikwe hivyo kama hatujamwona, hatujatoa rambirambi zetu kama familia na marafiki, hatujawekewa banyimbo zake tukatike. Tuko na uchungu mwingi sana. We are very sad. That is not right. It is not in order. What is the meaning of that? Yes.
Another sea of mourners from the lakeside was witnessed in Migori County at the burial of another Ohangla musician, Maureen Achieng, popularly known as Lady Maureen. What was meant to be an orderly occasion turned chaotic. Mourners donning Gor Mahia Football Club branded attire took over and ran the show, and in so doing, risked scoring an own goal in the COVID-19 war arena. The unrelenting crowd overpowered the contingent of cops and escorted the corpse-carrying casket to the grave, with social distancing being a distant concept. They always say that behavior takes 21 days to form, that whenever people discover that the new way of doing things is better, simpler, and less burdensome, they will abandon the old habits. Well, whether that phrase will live on after the pandemic is a story for another day. Ouko Kusa, NTV, Kisumu.
Oko Kusa's piece always giving a different perspective, in-depth perspective, I might add. And Jotham Rajoro, one of the many who have commented as they were following this feature, he says, mostly European nation has been affected. I remember when my father died, the same day, they already told me to send 10,000 shillings to cater for food and miscellaneous expenses. And Teremi, you say, indeed, it is time we change how we bury our loved ones. Some burial traditions are just expensive, good for nothing, but just a show off and end up leaving the bereaved even poorer. One Professor Johnson Bogwa has written a good book on this, Burial Reforms. Thank you for your feedback. We'll be having that particular feature online for you to watch and share widely. Business News is up next. Dan Mwangi is on that agenda.
Helen Paul.
Hello, madam. Would you like to join us on this mission?
Yes, but how?
Just one question for you. How do you keep your toilet clean?
I use regular detergent and bleach for washing and removing yellow stains. I've been using it for years.
Oh, madam, the regular detergents and bleach are used for washing clothes. To disinfect your toilet properly, you need Harpic 10X. It is specially made for germs and stains removal. Harpic's thick formula settles on stains and gives 10 times better cleaning compared to regular detergents and bleach.
Wow, now I'm convinced, Helen Paul.
Really?
Yeah.
Now that she's part of the mission, the next house is yours.
Ndovu flowers are fortified with vitamins and minerals to provide wholesome goodness for the whole family. Ndovu all-purpose flour makes the most delicious chapatis, mandazis and all other pastries. Ndovu is readily available at your nearest shop. Ndovu Tosha.
For a better tomorrow, don't forget to do the 1, 2, 3 with Colgate every night.
Good evening and welcome to NTV Business. My name is Dan Mwangi. Now, the Board of Directors of the World Bank Group has approved a 15 billion shilling assistance package to 1.7 million residents living in selected Kenyan urban informal settlements. The credit is being channeled through the International Development Association. It is part of the second phase of the Kenya Informal Settlements Improvement Project. Among the things the funding will help achieve is the provision of title deeds for enhanced security and community engagement to assess and address risks, including those posed by the impact of COVID-19. The project will also involve the upgrade of infrastructure to provide better service for roads, drainage, clean water, sanitation, and street lighting. Tourism sector investors in Malindi have set up a number of post-COVID-19 pandemic strategies to attract local tourists after reopening their premises early this month. The move is aimed at assuring tourists, whether domestic or foreign, that the destination is safe and convenient for holidays. This comes as consensus is building that the recovery of the tourism industry will largely depend on an initial push from the domestic market.
The COVID-19 pandemic brought the travel and tourism sector to a halt owing to the cancellation of international flights. But now that the skies have opened, hotels in the coastal city of Malindi are anticipating the first signs of the long road to recovery. In readiness for international travelers, La Malindina Hotel and Restaurant in Malindi organized its first post-COVID-19 beachwear fashion show, which brought a designer from Nairobi to showcase her products made from the familiar kitenge fabric. Hotels have put their best foot forward to meet the guidelines set by the Ministry of Health and the World Health Organization aimed at preventing the spread of COVID-19. For local and foreign tourists, the prevailing low rates being offered provide a unique opportunity to sample various tourism sites and offerings in different parts of the country.
Hatutazamii kwamba wageni wengi watafika kwetu wakati huu.
Tumeweza kupunguza makali ya COVID-19. Kwa hivyo tunaomba watu wote waweze kuja Malindi, upumzike, utoe stress yote ya COVID-19 kwa nyumba, come and relax.
Among the strategies to rope in more tourists include setting up special offers and packages that are affordable to local tourists. Creative hoteliers are also coming up with events such as the beachwear fashion show, which have a broad appeal to both local and foreign tourists.
Ili tuvutie watalii kutoka nchi yetu ya Afrika Mashariki, Ethiopia, Sudan, Rwanda, Burundi, watu kama hao wangependa kuja kujionea bahari, kuona fahari ya Kenya. Kwa hivyo ni bora sisi tujiandae na wawekezaji wajiandae to promote in the domestic markets.
We request Mr. Kingi, punguza hizo license za hotels and restaurants for some time. Kusudi watu wa Nairobi pia wamefinywa, watu wa Kenya mzima and the whole world, they can come and enjoy the little they are saving for the COVID.
President Uhuru Kenyatta has also given the country's tourist sites a clean bill of health, saying they're safe, open, and ready for visitors despite the COVID-19 pandemic. Rozongoi, NTV.
The Kenya Tea Development Agency, KTDA, has started registering tangible progress in its quest to reduce reliance on black city tea, whose prices have taken a dip at the Mombasa tea auction in favor of orthodox and specialty teas. Production of orthodox and specialty teas by factories under KTDA rose by 25% in the year ended June 30th, 2020. The factories produced 2 million kilograms of orthodox tea, up from 1.6 million kilograms the previous year. 10 factories having installed production lines for orthodox tea processing, with 9 of them doing the processing. A specialty tea factory in Kangaita is nearing completion and will have the capacity to process Japanese-style green tea.
You don't just do it, and they have already seen the benefit. This is a very great motivating factor for our farmers who are very, very keen.
That's it for business. Thank you for joining us. Back to Mark.
Maliza na Gashai.
Yes, Gashai, green.
Green tea.
Green imeiva.
So. And as we wrap up this segment, just something to look forward to before we get into the sports. A game of chicken refers to a situation in which neither side will back down for fear of seeming cowardly. However, in the conflict between President Uhuru Kenyatta and Deputy President William Ruto, the latter's allies have made a tactical retreat to avert a deadly clash. In your Daily Nation, find out why politicians who were at the forefront of DP Ruto's campaigns for 2022 presidency have suddenly gone quiet. Plus, how giant supermarkets collapse with 43.3 billion shillings in debt. On COVID-19, find out about the damage the disease is doing to bodies based on interviews with doctors. And that's why you should get your Daily Nation tomorrow. In a moment, Aida Waringa will be bringing you the sports of the day.
Mambo mengine sio rahisi, lakini kupata 50% extra airtime ya kukonda kwa SMS ya Safaricom, mambo ni 130. Pata 50% extra credo bila expiry ya kupiga na ku-SMS across networks. Piga star 444 star scratch card pin hash, na kama ni M-Pesa star 444 star 2 hash. Safaricom for you.
How to improve toddler behavior. Show your love. Make sure your displays of affection for your child outnumber any consequences or punishment. Prioritize rules rather than overloading your child with rules from the onset. Prioritize those geared towards safety first.
Kiss Kids diapers. Kiss Kids, no rashes. Kiss Kids, no rashes. Bye-bye rashes. Bye diapers. Choose Kiss Kids.
She is not really well. Anna, give back Hillary to her family at once.
Airing dirty laundry in public, Miranda? Then I will give you the scandal of the century.
My husband and his chief of staff are having an affair. I will see you both in court.
Samantha's been arrested because of the arson case against her.
Get those sisters fight each other more and make sure Samantha ends up abhorring Anna. How dare you involve my family in your insanity? You deserve worse than rotting in prison. You can't prove what you're saying. I hope your grandmother dies too. You deserve worse than my grandma.
A money-rich, the place of peace, is taking shape. The Solomonic Gate is complete. The stone perimeter wall is complete. And the title deeds for every plot. Call us today on 0790 300 300.
NTV Sport in association with DSTV.
And DSTV gives you the best seat in the house. It's the thrilling rush to the UEFA Champions League final. Get connected to DSTV to experience every heart-stopping moment.
A very good evening to you. Hoping you had a fantastic day. Time for the latest in the world of sport. Now, the Ministry of Sport has embarked on the construction of a modern sports complex along Ngong Road. Named the Posta Jamhuri Sports Ground, it will comprise of 3 football pitches, a rugby and hockey pitch, as well as an athletics track at the Posta grounds next to the Nairobi Showgrounds. The project, which sits on 19 acres, is in conjunction with Sports Kenya through the Sports Development Fund. The move is part of the government's campaign to upgrade sports infrastructure in different parts of the country. Well, Kenyan Premier League champions Gor Mahia have parted ways with defender Joash Onyango. The player handed in a transfer demand over non-payment of salary, with the record league champions having delayed salaries for 5 months despite securing sponsorship from a betting company. The Berlin Wall, as he is famously known, joined Gor Mahia from Western Steamer, that was back in 2017, and was feted with the KPL MVP award barely a year later. Onyango is likely headed to Tanzanian giant Simba SC, which would see him link up with former Gor players Francis Kahata and Medi Kagere. Well, in the next 2 minutes, Manchester United square off against Copenhagen in the Europa League quarterfinals tonight, looking to move closer to a second triumph in the competition in 3 years. This is the first time that United's Danish opponents have reached this stage of the Europa League in their history. Peripheral players have often benefited from United's rotation in the Europa League this season, with Odion Ighalo starting in United's last 4 outings and registering 2 goals. In the night's other game, Inter Milan host Bayer Leverkusen. Let's go to the States now, and Damian Lillard went off for 51 points as the Portland Trail Blazers beat the Philadelphia 76ers to pile the pressure on the fight for a playoff spot in the West. Dame added 7 assists to lead Portland to a 124-121 victory over
and DSTV gives you the best seat in the house. It's the thrilling rush to the UEFA Champions League final. Get connected to DSTV to experience every heart-stopping moment.
Thank you, Ida Waringa. Thank you, Dan Mwangi, and also Mark Ndome, my director, and the rest of the team. I can't name them all, but all putting in work to make this possible. Flora Tieno, always, you've been a darling. Have yourself a good night.
This is NTV. I help women find independence by training them in fish farming. It's tough on my back, joints, and can cause headaches. Panadol Extra relieves multiple types of pain.
If symptoms persist, seek medical advice.
Get free access to digital learning today. For primary and secondary students, one can now access learning and revision materials that has been approved by KICD. Dial *291# and subscribe to Safaricom Digital Learning and Shupavu 291 today. Tufungue njia, elimu iendelee.
How to improve toddler behavior. Show your love. Make sure your displays of affection for your child outnumber any consequences or punishment. Prioritize rules rather than overloading your child with rules from the onset. Prioritize those geared towards safety first.
Kiss Kids diapers. Kiss Kids, no rashes. Kiss Kids, no rashes. Bye-bye rashes. Bye diapers. Choose Kiss Kids.
I have a well-paying job, my friend. I have a job.
Hii hapa ni Mercury. Na inauzwa 50,000.
My son is going to Harvard. I need him to take his SATs.
We can use this to get him ready as we reschedule for him.
Look here, madam. My son was born ready.
This is yours. Let's just try. Please write your name. Good. Hii ni Mercury. Inatumia kutengeneza mpaka nini? Rocket.
What you have there is glycerin. Plus mercury is not used for that purpose, my friend.
Wazazi wangu wafanyi kazi saa hii, mimi ndio breadwinner kwa familia.
Before the COVID-19 pandemic hit, going to school gave children a safe and supportive learning environment and access to free meals.
Kitambo ilikuwa tuna feed 400, lakini sasa ikaenda 1,000.
Tukaona tukuje huko kwa church kupata chakula breakfast.
Wengine wazazi wao walipoteza kazi, wengine hawana chochote cha kupatia hawa watoto.
Saa zingine anaenda pale kwa shosho hapo, anachukua mkoko, aenda chochote maji ndio wapate lunch.
The pandemic has already left too many children hungry in the informal settlements.
Pata 50% extra credo bila expiry ya kupiga na ku-SMS across networks. Piga star 444 star scratch card pin hash. Na kama ni M-Pesa star 444 star 2 hash. Safaricom for you.
She is not really well. Anna, give back Hillary to her family at once.
Airing dirty laundry in public, Miranda? Then I will give you the scandal of the century.
My husband and his chief of staff are having an affair. I will see you both in court.
Samantha's been arrested because of the arson case against her.
Get those sisters fight each other more and make sure Samantha ends up abhorring Anna. How dare you involve my family in your insanity? You deserve worse than rotting in prison. You can't prove what you're saying. I hope your grandmother dies too. You deserve worse from my grandma.
Amani Ridge, the place of peace, is taking shape. The Solomonic Gate is complete. The stone perimeter wall is complete. And the title deeds for every plot. Call us today on 0790 300 300.
NTV, turning on your world. The following program has been rated PG. It may contain scenes unsuitable for children under the age of 10.
Marriage ni poa. However, iko na issues na challenges zake kama kuzoeana, small fights, lack of trust, poor communication na shida mingi ndogo ndogo hapa na pale. And just the same way nyinyi huzipitia hizi shida, the Morayas are not any different. And that's why here